doubles and coffee. I want to talk about Rowley legacy. Let me give you a little synopsis. After Rowley became a minister in 1991 to 95, he was the minister with responsibility for marine affairs. Tobago had no marina. Within that period, then came the beginning of a Scarborough Hospital, and there were questions about land date. What is land date? Land date was an area of land and apartments that were being built by Rowley and his wife and his cousin, his best friend, his business partner. Warner Construction, a small, tiny company, was building apartments. Nothing wrong with that. But then whistleblowers came out, investigation went on. And according to Rowley, which many people did not know, at the time after the Integrity Commission investigated, the Scarborough Hospital was being built by Rowley's greatest friend of many years, a brilliant contractor who has done many amazing projects across the Caribbean. NH International, at that time NH was quite a big company already, and Warner Construction, a tiny fledgling company, happened to subcontract NH International, and witnesses and people, allegations were made that material from the Scarborough Hospital was going somewhere else by another project. It was investigated by the Integrity Commission, and the Integrity Commission found enough information for, according to Rowley, 17 indictments to be laid. But they did not, whether on purpose or by mistake, they did not give Rowley the opportunity to respond to their findings, which is part of natural justice. So therefore, Rowley's lawyers, brilliant as they are, they got it thrown out. Now, why the police didn't start over the investigation and go again, since they had so much information on indictments and so on, you could ask them. But that was Rowley's fullest foray. Landed. Rowley then came back into power when the PNM president, well, A&R Robinson by that time, who was originally a PNM, then was NAR, then was vexed with Pandey, and then handed Patrick Manning and the PNM in 1818, where the UNC had won 18 seats. They were incumbent, and it's the first time in history when you tie with the incumbent lost, and PNM was given the reins of power, and in came Rowley, Minister Rowley. And within that term, between 2002 to 2010, Rowley held a portfolio, one of integrated planning and development. And miraculously, Rowley's best friend at that time, John Rahal, he was so close to Rowley. John Rahal's son joined a company called Woodgill Limited in August of 2003. Rowley was the Minister of Integrated Planning and Development. Woodgill had applied to go up in the sky in Shorelands there, down in near Point Kumana there, and you couldn't get through because there was a codicil from 1964 that said you cannot go up above a certain height. I think it was 3 floors. Carlos Sabga had a place down there. He wanted to go up for many years. He had applied 3 or 4 times and get blank because you just couldn't do it. In come John Rahal's son, Joseph Rahal, in August of 2003, joined with Woodgill, and they apply again. And miraculously, by November 2003, they got outline approval, signed, I have it right here, by Keith Christopher Rowley, Minister of Integrated Planning and Development. Outline approval to go up in the sky, 15 stories high. Therefore, they were able to use that outline approval to access funding and loans and so on and go up in the sky. Amazing. Suddenly, by coincidence, Manning moved Rowley from there and put him into housing, where he and Noel Garcia make a mass. You could talk about Greenvale, land owned by who? John Rahal. Applied for permission to build houses, denied by the Minister and Ministry of Integrated Planning and Development. You know who? Camille Robinson Regis on a few occasions, because it was farmland and it was floodplain land. Rowley's HDC went ahead, purchased the land from Rahal and built houses in Greenvale that up to now people, when it rained, they're afraid that they flood out and the children drown. That is Rowley. Rowley then was also Las Alturas. There were also 1.8 billion in projects of money wasted at housing at that time that never completed. The sky in Chaguanas in the center of our country, those Edinburgh, that's Rowley. Rowley admitted in a Guardian article when they asked him, but how could you do these projects without approvals, without outline approval, without planning approval, without WASA approvals and so on? And Rowley said, as Prime Minister, when they asked him, and I quote, because of the need for housing, we had to move quickly with alacrity. In other words, Rowley admitted to cutting corners and breaking the law as Minister of Housing. Then there was also coming up into 2007 and so on. Rowley came up with this call the heart, corrupt and so on, and went at Manning, and Manning went at Rowley, and Manning told you all the raging bull, and when Rowley don't get what he want, and you all thought that was because Rowley cared about corruption of Calderheart. No, that was because somebody, a favorite contractor, didn't get a contract, and Rowley mashed up the whole PNM, wanted to bring it down. He wanted a mutiny in the PNM. That is Rowley. The up inquiry that Rowley said was his brainchild, and he brought to boot. They made about 100 and something recommendations. Rowley, when he's Prime Minister, has not implemented any of those recommendations at Udicott, and in fact, he's gone backwards with Noel Garcia, breaking corporate governance, breaking all the tender rules, select ministers procuring. He took procurement legislation that was passed and gutted it. Rowley went in the reverse direction. That is Rowley legacy. It continued. Rowley attacked Manning and went down and bring down Manning because Rowley didn't get what he wanted. And then Rowley, when he was taking on and beating Manning, he boasted about being from Mason Hall near to Lekoto, and that time Manning was ailing. He had kidney failure, he was on blood thinners, he had a stroke, he was struggling for his life, and Rowley went on a platform and said, you see, I from Mason Hall, nearby Lekoto. The last time somebody put me out of somewhere, you see what happened to them, and PNM people cheered and clapped. They still went and made him leader of the opposition and leader of the PNM. Never mind, Manning warned them. Forget the issue with the house and the 10 million. There are many things. Then Rowley became leader of the opposition. And his period there was highlighted by the greatest embarrassment, the desecration of the parliament by an individual knowing that he was a total, complete liar, fabricating without conscience accusations of a serious nature on a sitting prime minister and a government, that they would conspire to kill a journalist and to bug the DPP office and so on. He stood up in that parliament for an hour and 15 minutes. His first 12 minutes were stated and researched why he was going to lie, why he was justified in lying, and no matter how egregious, he came to lie. He had these so-called emails, these pieces of paper. 29 of 31 of them could not even be emails because they did not have enough characters to go up in the cloud. And he stood there lying with a straight face, taking our country down a dangerous path. That is Rowley. And then your PNM, through the gerrymandering, Robert Masson and then Narcissus Scope, allowed Rowley to win an election, to scrape it, with the PNM getting an extra hour to pull out their vote for the machinery to work, while the UNC knew nothing. Rowley then jumped in as Prime Minister, and you all know not only of Email Gate, you know of Bridgman's Gate. He called it crooked money. He lied in Tobago, then come in the Joint Select Committee and tell the truth and say that he approved it over the phone, the Charter Party agreement that has now reached about 330 million of crooked money, with an ocean stem that was supposed to come that never reached, that old Brockdown boat, and the Kobo Star that's still limping in the sea at 25,000 US per day, when it's valued at about 8,000 US per day. It's Rowley who gave prime ministerial approval by himself on the phone, small pinner, to tell him, yes boss, in Tobago you did that, without reading a document, without doing anything. He himself called that crooked money, and he approved the crooked money. Then when the collapse of the sea bridge came, you know who went to buy boats and ships for $1.5 billion? After letting his minister Colm Imbot and Shamfa Kujo in at some ministerial committee, they were supposed to lease a fast ferry. They went and buy for $120 million the Galleon's Passage that nobody want to pass on. Rowley and Smallpin, with a kind of half-mad one who was Minister of Foreign Affairs, went down Australia, toured shipyards, met with CEOs and so on, and purchased without procurement, without board, after Rowley lied and said that the board under Allison due diligence Lewis didn't find any vessel. When a FOIA was requested, it found 12 vessels, of which 4 were fantastic and were of the same type that Rowley and Smallpin Ministerial Committee went and purchased from Ostal and Incat. And when Ostal and Incat put in the bids, 2 ministers, no board, no tender committee, no evaluation committee, Stuart Young was in the head of that committee. They analyzed the bids and they saw that Incat bid was 10 million Australian dollars less than Ostal. They took that secret information, shared it with Ostal, Ostal then lowered the price, and they hand out billion-dollar projects, one left, right, like they're giving out dynamite and tell you that they saved the all money. That is Rowley's legacy. That is what Rowley has done. So don't talk about Rowley and who he is and what he has done. Rowley has done nothing for this country but spend money without procurement, break down corporate governance. Then there was Nelson Gate. Rowley and his Attorney General Faris Al-Rawi got involved, breached the Constitution, took over the powers of the DPP, signed an indemnity with a criminal, a man who they say is a criminal, and let him make a statement illegally, getting involved, misbehaving in public office, to give him indemnity so he can lie on UNC. That is Rowley's legacy. The Delcy Gate, the COVID Gate, the lack of procurement gate. You go down the line, Inez Gate, Rowley put all his friends in charge of your money, all his neighbors. He removed the central bank governor. He created a web of corruption that could hardly ever be broken unless you give the UNC 2 terms to mash it up and put procurement and put people in place and return corporate governance. That is the legacy of Rowley. And that is just politics. Don't let me start with the legacy of the Red Couch and the legacy of how he had outside children all over the place. The legacy that led to One Woodbrook Place being the place for special branch. So they don't tell me about Rowley legacy. And I just off the top of my head and I can go longer. So I'll let Rowley go and let the whole PNM go with him. And for those of you all who think Rowley did a smart move, Rowley want to mash up the PNM. Because in his view, he brought the PNM from nothing up into government. And if they don't want Smallpin, then he is going to shatter it and put them back where he met them and let them fight, whether it's Foster, Amory Brown, Brian Manning, LaHunt, whoever, Penny Beckles, whoever want to lead, let them build it back like him. That is Rowley, the vindictive, malicious, wicked man. So his legacy is hate. His legacy is argumentative nature, arrogance. He is a raging bull. That is his legacy.